I may have overdone it. Inside all these boxes is the Merlin phone haul to end all Merlin phone hauls. The AT&T Merlin first came out in 1983, right before the breakup of AT&T, intended as a replacement for their 1A2 key system. It's a hybrid digital analog setup. The switching for making calls between the phones is digital inside what's called the control box, but the phones themselves are still using analog voice. The phone connects up through regular Cat5 wires with an RJ45 connector on each end. I have a Merlin Classic system. My control units, affectionately called bread boxes, were from the original Merlin's communication system in the early 80s. Several variants came later. This lot caught my eye for a couple reasons. There are some accessories and what appear to be original cables hiding in there. It includes 2 phones in a color other than black. These came in a variety of colors, but anything other than black proves rather elusive to track down. And it contains at least one Biz 34D. I think this is physically the largest phone my Merlin Classic control unit supports. So we're going to unbox all this stuff, see everything that came in it, what kind of other goodies are hiding in there, and finally hook some of it up and do some Merlin phone stuff. Let's get into it. Let me tell you the story of this eBay lot. Saw it on there. He wanted $375 plus $60 shipping. Overall pretty fair, but a bunch of these phones were missing their front screen. In fact, let me show you. Here's a Merlin phone I had already owned, and as you can see, it's got the labeling on it, and this is just a plastic protector on top, which I suppose is technically optional. And then we've got this guy that comes out. It's like laminated or something, and unfortunately has the AT&T logo and everything on it, so when you pull that off, you get a pretty blank looking phone, and a lot of the phones look like that in the listing. But in the corner of one of the pictures and in the description, you can see what looks to be a hefty stack of these labels. So I'm cautiously optimistic that a bunch of those phones will be able to end up complete. And this one's kind of hard to get back in. Come on. You would think this would be such an easy task. There we go. So that's the deal with the labels. A little bit of a risk there. But at any rate, in the description, he was pretty transparent about saying, yeah, I'll accept offers, make an offer. So I shot off a $300 offer, would have brought it to about $375 shipped after tax. Well, day goes by, the offer expires. And I thought, well, that's the end of that. I don't need 800 Merlin phones anyway. But then he messaged me on eBay and said, hey, I'm sorry, I just missed the offer. I'll take it. I'll accept it. Shoot it over again, and we've got a deal. Sent off the offer again. He accepted immediately and printed a shipping label. So I was in business. I got all those boxes and everything you're going to see today for $375 shipped. We'll divide it out by cost per phone later or something like that. See what that comes to. That might be interesting. A couple days goes by, and just this small box shows up. And I was like, uh-oh. In the purchase section in eBay, it says, yep, your order has arrived. And I was like, well, it is a lot of phones. So I was like, well, maybe there's multiple boxes coming, right? So I wait a day. You start to play weird games with yourself. You're like, well, maybe he fit it all in here. Maybe he's like some sort of wizard, Merlin or something. Finally opened it up, and yeah, there's not even a phone in here, as you'll see. A bunch of the other stuff's in there. But I was like, you know what? The guy seemed like he was a phone collector. I'm not going to bug him on eBay just yet. And sure enough, a day later, the middle box shows up. And I'm like, yep, we're in business. That thing weighs 30 pounds. And then another day later, a second box that weighs 30 pounds showed up. So yeah, pretty sure we got everything. Let's dive in to this one. This is typically something I would just do a Patreon video of. I'm not really an unbox guy. But the sheer amount, the comical amount of phones I bought, I figured, yeah, better make a full video, and we'll, of course, hook them up and test them later. This won't just be an unboxing video. And this has a bunch of the handsets, and they are individually bubble wrapped, which I really, really appreciate. Now, I didn't mention this, but there are variations of these handsets. Let's see if I can quickly find one maybe that looks different from this. Of course, I can't. Long story short, some of them say AT&T embossed right here, and you can tell it's an older one when it's got this like metal thing. Let me show you. So here's one I already own. If we flip it around, there's that metal kind of screen I was talking about. And this is one I just randomly pulled from the box. It doesn't have that. And there's even some other differences. The earpiece looks different. This one has screws right here. They feel identical. Same weight, same build quality. But yeah, I am a sucker for collecting variants, as some of you may have noticed. I actually learned about a bunch of little details like that about Merlin stuff from what I would consider the quintessential Merlin video on YouTube by a YouTube channel called Stereophonic Stuff. Go watch that video. It's like a live demo of a Merlin system in use. Tons of historical information about how they work. Awesome video. I'll link it down in the description below. I'm gonna unwrap all these and sort of just put them into piles. Oh, yes. Our first AT&T embossed one. I don't think I have one of those. That's awesome. So another goal of mine was to kind of pick and choose from all these phones and kind of combine things into the sets I would like to have in my collection. Obviously, I don't need to keep all this stuff. I'm gonna get through this. I'll come back if anything interesting happens. Tons of interesting stuff so far. So we've got 2 of the metal stands and 3 really large metal stands. These are completely metal. Earlier editions had these metal stands. For example, the phone I was showing you earlier happens to have a metal stand. They switched to plastic later. I'm sure we'll have lots more plastic ones in the boxes as we open them. And then we've got several different variants here. These are just plain, no AT&T embossing, no screws. This is the most common one, I have to imagine, based on this ratio and just my own collection I already have. Yeah, not much to it. These are identical to this, except they've got screws and sort of this little embossed plate area. And then I've got 3 with the AT&T logo on them. Really happy about that. That's really cool. I have no idea like which time period each of these came out in, or if they all came out at the same time. I don't really know the rhyme or reason for why these might be different. And then the brown one for one of the brown phones that is hopefully in another box. It's got that metal screen. And then 3 of these, he explicitly mentioned this in the description. These are push to talk. They've got this button labeled R10. I'm assuming you have to press that to talk. I don't know if this would be like a unit on the wall and you hold it for an intercom announcement or something. Really cool. I will have to look up later what that's about and we'll try that out. But I've got 3 of them. They're all identical and the buttons all say R10. Little push button. Close up of that R10 button. Its styling and industrial design is very un-Merlin. It's kind of reminiscent of the 1A2 key systems in my mind, for whatever reason. And then there's some cleaning in my future. As you would expect with 40-year-old phones, you don't really want to put your mouth on them, necessarily. Onward into the good stuff. So this is the first box, first big box we're going to open. And I'm already seeing stuff I really like. A bunch of the cables. These are, let's see, yeah, everything is individually wrapped. That is so cool. This is a speakerphone unit. I've never even used one of these. A couple of them came with the lot, and we got to pull this one out right away. This is one of the brown phones. Yes, that is so good. Beautiful. It's got a Western Electric tagging right there. This is a really early Merlin, I think. AT&T logo, a couple of them. Oh man, I'm so excited. Why am I excited about this? You'll also notice it uses these membrane buttons. Again, back to my reference unit here. They later switched to physical buttons. My understanding is that membrane buttons could wear out over time, and that was a big deal. Okay, I'm gonna get distracted a lot during this video. And then I'm seeing something else I really like, a really big one. What is it? Yes! The Biz 34D. I think the D is this digital display. They also have a Biz 34, and I think, don't quote me, is the only difference is that. Looks like we're missing some of the printout, some of the back screening there. That's fine. Most of it's intact, tons of lines. I think you had 34 preset lines you could choose and configure. Man, that is so cool. Now, I believe this is the biggest, in terms of amount of buttons and physically, unit I can use on my control unit, my 206 control unit that I'll pull out later. And the only reason I believe that, so correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, in a 1990 product catalog from AT&T, this is the largest phone they had for the Merlin Classic system before it jumps into a new iteration of the Merlin that came after the Classic. Okay, I'll show you these cords real quick, I guess. We got a brand new one sealed in its plastic from International Connectors and Cable Corp. This is my first time looking at one of these, an actual cable that would have come with the unit. They look pretty long. So yeah, it's got the RJ45 connector on there. Looks like it's using all the wires. And it's this nice, supple, malleable cable. Really long, really thin. I'm almost certain from other pictures I've seen, this is the stuff that would have come with the phones. So that's exciting to have reams and reams of that. Same deal. I'm gonna pull all this out, unwrap everything. Again, you gotta give that guy credit for individually wrapping every single item. That is so cool. Now, generally, look at that old 911 sticker. Generally, I would say I'm not too worried when I order Merlin stuff and get it shipped. The build quality is really good. It's made by, the early stuff was made by Western Electric in the USA, you know, back when that meant something. You'd have to have a pretty negligent packing job to damage some Merlin stuff. Aside from the control units, they're a little, I could see those getting broken in half, but the gear itself, I'm not worried about it. These are the contents of box number 2. We've got 7 of these HFAI 10s. I'll look at each item in detail after I give you the full tally. 4 Biz 34Ds in very good shape, most of them. A Biz 34, an old one with the membranes and the weathered plastic there. The other brown phone, I think this is called a Biz 10, also membrane, in really good shape. 3 speakerphone microphone units. A bunch of the handsets that are just the plain, no screws, no AT&T, nothing special like that. And then 3 different variants here. Now, I don't actually know for sure, but it's my understanding that these HFAI 10 and Biz 10 phones were sort of the phone that you probably had on your desk. HFAI stands for hands-free answer on intercom. You can see there's this HFAI mic button right here. And basically you can press that and that'll illuminate. And then when an intercom call comes in, that's an inter-office call, not from the outside world, it will automatically answer and you can start talking. And you can also turn on speaker independently from the mic. And then here is one of the Biz 34Ds, one of the nicest looking ones. They all look pretty nice, actually. That one looks great too. I love the story that they tell. This one's a little cryptic, but you've got a bunch of these AFRC rescue lines, AFRC, LGQM, LGM, QA. I don't know what those acronyms are for. It's kind of screaming hospital, but I don't actually know. But this was a full-blown Merlin installation. Tons of different lines to call. And here's what, I think it's a Biz 34. It's that same unit, but older, membrane style, and no display. I don't think they really put the model numbers on these things, unfortunately. Yeah, I can't really tell. There's that AT&T sticker. And then I got 3 of these speakerphones, and you might be wondering, why do I need that when it's on the phone? But not all the phones had that. This is a 5-line model I already owned. This one is kind of cool. Hopefully you can see it's got a date sticker of 1986, so pretty early unit. And this one has a speakerphone but no mic, so that's just a speaker in there, I think. And so you can hook this up somehow. We'll have to try this. And then you could turn on mic and speakerphone from this unit. I mean, at least I'm assuming that's what's going on here. They all are matching the AT&T, doesn't say Merlin on it, but it's matching the AT&T Merlin branding there, as you can see. Maybe it's just an AT&T speakerphone for something else, I don't know. Probably for the Merlin stuff though. And then 3 interesting handsets. This is the first one in the lot with that metal screen. I would not advise getting that near your mouth. Someone was getting some real work done with this bad boy. This would, if you're young, you probably don't know what's going on here. Pretend this is my shoulder. You'd put this on your shoulder so you could push it against your ear comfortably. This would be for like a secretary or administrator that is on the phone all the time, or salesperson, I suppose, anyone that's going to be on the phone for a long time. This is looking sort of aftermarket to me. I did see in that brochure they sold some of these things, so who knows. And this is a really nice, clean AT&T embossed handset as well. And then we've got this really unique one. It also appears to be push to talk, but it's got some sort of volume toggle, probably for the earpiece, I would guess. We'll have to try this one as well. That's kind of cool. And then the brown Biz 10 that came in this box, it is in way better shape than the first one. The first one has a bunch of cosmetic damage, which is fine. No big deal. You can kind of see it there. That's probably fixable though, or that might just be a sticker on top. But yeah, this one is in really, really good shape. We better get this thing in a stand where it belongs. Oh, and then of course this box had a bunch of the cables. Would you believe me if I told you that in the past 10 minutes I've already misplaced the stands that came in the first box? Gotta go find them. And it kind of just slides into some plastic slots and it stays in there pretty good. Oh yeah. Get our handset on there. Beautiful. Hopefully we have a brown cable. I seem to remember one in the pictures, and there's a lot of stuff in that big box yet. Probably all the cables, actually. It's probably the cable box. Again, I really love it when they come pre-populated with stuff. It just tells a story. So this one had a 512 area code somewhere in Texas. I just looked that up. I didn't memorize that. Another little tidbit I think I got from Stereophonic Stuff's video is that they changed the little hook. Yeah, they did. It's wider now. So these older ones presumably have the smaller one. So far so good. We're really liking what we're seeing here. I'm gonna get all this stuff off the table so we can unbox another one. Actually, I'm gonna push it all back. We'll unbox it on the ground real quick. Save myself some headache. Getting this one open on the ground, and I'm seeing more of the same. More cables, some of these plastic stands I was talking about. Probably all the phone cables. Seeing more phones. Bet you didn't know this. IBM server's down here all the time. I'll pull all this up onto the bench. In the third and final box, we have a bunch more Biz 10 and HFAI 10s. 17 more, to be precise. A ton more cables, which is great. 3 handsets, just the typical style. Nothing special about those, other than these sweet 911 stickers. Bunch of handset cables, not nearly enough for, for every phone we have here. But there is one brown one, which I will untangle carefully later, and we'll test out the brown phone. Some of the plastic stands. And then over here in this box, he's got it labeled Merlin stands and brackets. But on top, tons of the front sheets. I mean, like, tons of them. There's the plastic topper, the thing that goes on top. And a lot of these, I think a lot of these phones are going to be able to be fixed up and looking really good. There's a Lucent one in there for you. Lucent took over from AT&T in the mid-90s and manufactured these Merlins. They had a long lifespan. Wow, look at all these. Okay, that is really, really good. I'd like to tell you I'm going to count them up and see how many I can save, but I probably won't do that. And then this is really cool. The label strips for the phones, complete in the shrink wrap, tons of them. That's very exciting. And then a ton of the plastic stands. I mean, there we go. That's a lot of phones. Aside from the sea of handsets that are sitting on another bench, this is everything that was in the boxes, just as described and advertised. Now I'm going to clear all this off. Going to pick and choose maybe some select ones to try out. Definitely the big guys, these Biz 34 and Biz 34Ds. These 10 buttons I've done a bunch. Maybe I'll randomly grab a nice looking one. We'll play with the different headsets, and of course we'll see if the brown variant works. And we'll use our new cables. I'm going to clean this off and I'm going to get some control units out. Now, I don't need all these phones, obviously. I'm not going to hoard all these. I'm going to pick and choose what I want, get them all cleaned up probably, and then I'll, I don't know, sell them, give them away. The problem is you can't actually use them without the control unit, to my knowledge. They require the control unit. You can't just like plug this in. It's not an IP phone, obviously, even though that's RJ45. You can't just plug an analog phone line in. It's my understanding that AT&T didn't ever publish the protocol, as it were, that they're using between this and the control unit. My understanding is that 2 analog lines do get in to the phones, so I'm sure there's a way to reverse engineer it. Maybe that should be a project I tackle. I would have to learn a lot in order to do that, but if you're interested in something like that, get in touch with me. It would be really cool to be able to let, you know, hobbyists and people that are into these phones use them without the rather expensive control units. And the control units, you know, they're few and far between, because for every control unit, you'd have at least 6 phones attached to it. There's more phones than control units, is what I'm saying. And their power supplies are getting old and bad. They weren't meant to be ran 40 years, despite the high build quality. Okay, enough yapping. Let me get rid of this stuff. These are all the Merlin control units I own. This is a model 206. The model numbers actually make sense, amazingly. So this is a 206, a 4, I forgot what it is. Don't worry about that. 410. And an 820. This 206 is fully functional and the one I used in all my other Merlin videos. This is the 206. It means 2 telco lines coming in. So this one can take 2 POTS lines from the telephone provider, obviously, and then 6 internal phones. AT&T actually calls them voice terminals. I keep saying phones, but technically they're voice terminals. And these are the RJ45 jacks that those cables to the phones go in. My 206 unfortunately does not have one of these sweet covers, but this one drops down, and inside we've got a 410, meaning 4 telco lines, 10 voice terminals. I powered this one up, or attempted to, I think, in a Patreon video. It was either this one or the 820. So we'll try them all today. We'll use the 30,000 phones I just bought as an excuse to try to power up these bigger ones. And then finally, the 820. If you haven't caught on, the first number is the telco line number. This one is a little more modular, so you can max it out at 8 telco lines, 20 internal voice terminals. And I'm only set up for 410, so it's technically as equipped as this one. One of the things on my list is to find the line cards that go in here and get this fully maxed out. I never thought I'd have enough phones to do that. I'll probably still never hook them all up, but got to do it now. One thing of note is the power goes into this one on the front here, as opposed to the other two terminals. They come with these pretty severe right angle plugs. Dive down in there and there's a little clip. I've covered this before in other videos. Let's try to power this one on. I think it just does nothing. We are hoping for some power or even some warning lights up there. Huh. Maybe this one works. Let's try the bigger one. It's kind of coming back to me. I think this is the one I had tried. This power switch is on. Nothing. I wonder if it needs one of the expansion feature cartridges? I don't think so. Let's try it anyway. All right, we're going to get feature package 1 in here. This is cartridge type 1. Okay, power that on. No. So this one probably has a power supply issue. We'll save that for another day. So we're going to use this model 410 today. And of course I just powered it on without a feature package. I can never remember what these feature packages provide, so I'm not going to rattle that off off the top of my head. And obviously it powered on without one, so the other one clearly power supply issue. This one is on now. So this is a known working phone, and the way this works is the line number, the internal intercom number, is assigned by the jack you're plugged into. So this is jack 10. I've got the brown phone on jack 11, and I'm already seeing good news. That red light means it knows it has an internal line it can use. So let's call that one. I think you do, I can't remember how to do it. I think it's local. It's not ringing, but yeah, I have a call. So yeah, you press the local intercom line and then you dial 11, and hopefully you can see we got some blinking lights over there. The speaker might be turned down. It is, maybe. Let me roll. There's like a little slider on the side. Let's try that again. Local. No ringing. Interesting. You can put them into this test mode. All the phones on the side have this slider, T and P. You would think it'd be tone or pulse, but that's actually on the control box. It's test and program, so you can put it in test mode. And it rings and shows all its buttons repeatedly. And this slider is messed up, I think, which might be part of our problem. I mean, I guess we can see if we can dial out. So, of course, none of these membrane buttons are going to work. No, they're totally messed up. Let's open this thing up. Look at this attention to detail on the old phones. It's a silhouette of the handset where you plug that in. The newer versions don't have that. It's not immediately obvious to me how to open this, so before I break it, I think we'll just spray some cleaner in there. It's almost like the button is broken. So here's a membrane, probably roughly era consistent with this one. And when you flip it, the switch stays. It's got a nice chunk. And this one just kind of wants to flop back. You can kind of half get it in the program position. Doesn't clunk back into the middle. It's almost like the switch is broken. However, if I grab the one that doesn't look as good, it's got the same exact problem. See how it just kind of springs up? Doesn't really want to stay in place. Maybe that's not a problem. Let's plug this one in. Yeah, when I call this one, it answers on speaker immediately, but beeps. I was kind of hoping for that beep. And I think the membrane on this one's a little better. So intercom, pickup 10. Yeah, that one beeps. And we have a call. So yeah, this one obviously needs some membrane work. I'll have to go look into how to do that. Maybe we can like swap this one, just get the case, the good case components, and form one really nice brown Merlin phone. Let's see if it has a nice ringer. I mean, I imagine it will, because you'll know from the test. I don't know if you're picking that up. That button is really scratchy. All these buttons are going to need contact cleaner. Yeah, we're going to need like a membrane refresh on these. So when I call it, It beeps and it always wants to pick up on speaker. I can't turn the speaker off. And of course, none of these work. So that'll be a future project. But man, if it doesn't look good. Let's mess around with one of these big Biz 34Ds. This would be like your operator panel. And the stands are all metal, again, all the spring and everything. And it's got two positions, effectively that one and that one. Press down this heavy metal lever to let it back down, pretty nice. Then the stand latches into these plastic clips, and of course on the nicest looking one I have, one of the clips is broken. But we'll try this one anyway. So I thought it's a good time to start trying out our new cables. And I found some short ones, which I was pretty excited about. The others are very long, and it doesn't fit. And that is because of this little extra notch right here. These shorter ones are accessory cables. On the back of some of the phones, not all of them, there's the line in, that's normal RJ45. And then there's this other port for accessories, and it's got that little notch. So this fits in no problem. And then of course the port on something like this speakerphone accessory here also has the notch right there. That's a nice touch. And then I started noticing all the short cables have blue connectors, and all the longer ones that are the RJ45 line connector for the main jack are yellow. Also a nice touch. I couldn't tell you why, but the most exciting part is having these original cables. So this is our known good phone. Let's plug in the big guy. That is normal. It's beeping and complaining about the time and date. Let's scrub down one of these AT&T embossed handsets. Make it safe to be around. Actually, let's get a look inside. See just how disgusting it really is. Of course, there's some sort of clip mechanism. Oh boy. I don't know if I feel like breaking this just yet. A lot of letdowns with opening stuff up, but it takes patience. And I want to get this gunk out of here. Watch this. I'm just going to run my fingernail down where the crease between the cases are. Gross. I actually started hitting it with degreaser. You see this stuff? That stuff comes off. That's like 40 years of skin. Very nice. Well, I got it clean enough for me. So remember how I was confused as to why the other phones were always answering in speaker? It's doing the same thing. So call 11. It beeps, but I can already talk to this person already. I don't recall my 206 behaving that way. So it might be the case that the 410 is programmed in some way to do that. Let's pull the feature package just for fun. No, same result, always on speaker. I'm gonna go do some reading. That is a perfect segue. I've never actually used these as they're intended, like programming the buttons and stuff. So theoretically, you can get these bad boys into program mode on the first terminal, and you can manipulate aspects of the system. So I'm gonna go off and do a little reading of the manuals and come back with something hopefully interesting to do, at least program one of these buttons. I think I'm going insane. I think that's just the way it's supposed to work. Hence the Intercom name. But I was experimenting and I put feature package 2 from my other one. I just had feature package 1. But because of the feature package 2, we've actually got new features now. When I pick up terminal 10, the big guy, you can see we get this one lighting up. Meeting finance, apparently. And of course over here, when I pick this one up, it thinks it's assigned to that. So I think what I can do to not have that speakerphone action is call that one, just to make it easier for myself. I'm going to call meeting finance. It beeped. And now we can call each other without a speakerphone. So that must be how you would have done that. You would assign a phone to one of these buttons. Which one was that? So yeah, this has all been assigned in the 410, previously by the previous installation. So none of this actually is logical sitting on the desk here. But I can pick that up and call that guy. And now we have a call, and I wasn't on speakerphone. So yeah, intercom really is for an intercom to bug the person. I still think I'm going crazy though. I swear I've used it and it didn't do that. Maybe You're seeing the proof right here though. This is how it works. This video is a total disaster. I think this thing is in its default configuration, and there's actually a diagram. So when I pick this up, I'm line 10 in the diagram. That is line 10. So this is the other phone. This one's off hook, and you can see meeting finance is green. This one has been assigned to that button on this phone. So over here, this is jack 11. This one just beeped. Now there's a real call going on. Sorry about that. And then similar, I can pick up and it knows that line 11 is on. I can dial that guy. He just beeped. Okay, we're learning. I'm gonna figure out how to do something interesting. Okay, we are going to attempt to assign one of these buttons to call this third phone. This is another one from the lot. Works great. Didn't do anything to it. And I made myself a little cheat sheet because I was going nuts. This is phone 10. Goes green, right? This is phone 11. That one goes green. And then this is phone 12. It goes green. This would have been called the Attendant voice terminal, by the way. So when I pick up the Attendant terminal, this one has already been defaulted to that button. Same with over here. They can already speed dial the Attendant on line 10. Now if I pick up line 12, he doesn't know anything about it, right? These buttons have been assigned to something else. In fact, that one says local 13, so someone did this before with different numbers. What we're going to do is make it so that when this button is pressed on this terminal, we're going to dial 12 over here. We'll see. Wow, that was an experience. Read through all the documentation, and as you'll recall, there's a T and P switch on the side of every phone. My thinking was I was going to be able to remotely administer these voice terminal buttons from here somehow. Not quite the case, but I'll show you what I learned. So you pull this thing down into P. It makes this sound every 5 seconds to, quote, remind you that you're in program mode. From here, at least with my equipment, pick up, dial #01. The ringing stops, this little light comes on, and I can configure aspects of these phones. So we wanted to configure 11. And over here, I think is how you can decide like outside line numbers or different features. Anyway, I was trying to like mess around with these and click that. I think these correspond to that set of lines right there. That didn't work. Look at this thing in test mode, by the way. Pretty wild. For this simple use case where I want to assign one of these free buttons to call one of these internal terminals, it's called Intercom Auto Dial is the feature. And you actually come to one of these and pull it into program mode. And it's going to keep ringing at me. You press the button you want to configure, this one. Then you press *6 and the terminal number, 12. You get no feedback at all that this might be working. And then you take it out. And now, hopefully, if I did this right, if I pick up this, we'll see that light illuminate. And we do. So now, I can pick this one up, press Photo, this is Photo Express apparently. And we can have a call. So that's how you can configure those on each terminal locally. We did something. Next up, let's mess around with the speakerphone microphone deal. So I had postulated earlier that the idea was this thing doesn't have a mic, this Biz 5, and that maybe you want that. But it also is one of those that doesn't have the other port. So that's not correct. These guys over here also don't have that. This one happens to. So I'm going to go look through the phones and see if there's anyone that's reasonable with the other port. And we'll hook this up. Seems kind of superfluous to hook it up to this one because I think it already has a speakerphone and mic. Well, this Biz 34, at least I think that's what this is, an older membrane style. It does not appear to have a microphone, so we'll give it a shot. And of course the membrane is like totally shot on this. These older ones get this discoloration. That should be silver, I'm pretty sure, because I've got some of the older membrane styles, and this one is a nice example. It's silver on the bottom and that weird color starting to happen on the top. So I think the plastic's wearing out or the sun exposure or something, I'm not sure. Got the other end of our blue terminated cable going in there. Let's just see what happens, I guess. Nothing so far. Oh, you can turn microphone on and off, speakerphone. Oh, that like picks up a call right away. Did you see that? So I'm actually picking up a call. Watch the lights on all these. It's as if this goes off hook. Yeah, they all go green. That's the same thing that happens when you actually go off hook. So that is speakerphone, and then you would dial a call, right? Let's make a call to this and see if we can answer over speakerphone. He's number 13. So let's do an intercom 13. See if I can pick it up. I can. Hello? Ooh. Yep, the microphone's working. Got a little feedback there because this one has a microphone. I bet if we turn that off, we will not get the feedback. Let's find out. I don't know how to answer. It would probably help if I actually made the call correctly with that off. So let's see, intercom, who is he, 13? I'm gonna pick it up and immediately turn off the microphone. Yep, we have some feedback. Cool. Well, that thing works. I guess that'd be a pretty nice feature. I kind of like how it looks. Reminds me of like the TRS-80 gear. Anyway, let's take a look at these push-to-talk handsets and see what that's all about, because I have no idea. I might have to look some stuff up. I'll make a call to this guy, I guess. Let's do intercom so we can talk through it. It's literally push to talk. So the call's live. Maybe you can't tell, but if I press it, then I'm on the intercom. Okay, so that would be for like privacy. Maybe you're like a front desk person, and I really don't know. Let's try this one. I imagine it's the same story. So let's call this phone, I guess. Who is he? 11? That's weird. The pressing the button, I'm talking, it's coming out this speaker. I know it's hard for me to show you this, but if I press the button, it gets quieter. Let's turn this wheel. Wow, it's the amount that this quiets things down. So when I have the wheel all the way up to 9 and I'm blowing in there and press it, I can't hear it at all. If I have it all the way down to 0, it makes less of a difference. That doesn't make any sense. Maybe it's in my head. Let me call myself and talk to myself a little bit with this, play with this wheel. I'll be right back. I can't tell. I have to imagine that wheel is the volume, but it might be broken because I can't hear anything coming out of it regardless of where the wheel is. So there you go. I was getting my mouth dangerously close to these. I didn't clean these ones. Ooh. One last thing. The most fun thing to do with these, in my opinion, is to get them interacting with the POTS line and hear their iconic ringtone. So we're gonna plug in right here. In the other room, I've got the Retro Rack hosting a Cisco 2800 series router with some telephony service on it, and it provides a POTS dial tone line to somewhere around here. This one. We should have dial tone now. That is the dial tone coming from the Cisco router. This line has been configured to be line 200, and I can go plug in an IP phone to my network, and we can call, and all of these should ring except the Attendant, because way down in there in the voice terminal dip switches, the Attendant has been set to not ring. Phones galore. Let's get an IP phone going. This guy should be able to interact with that 200 line. Actually, I know it will. And yeah, all the Merlins will ring, and we should be able to dial this. He's 102 on the VoIP setup. I'm actually developing a new appreciation for this thing because the membranes are broken, like I keep talking about. Usually when you press speaker, it'll try to find the first outside line and give you a dial tone. For example, on these push button ones, I can press speaker. It has immediately selected the one telco line that's plugged in. And now we can still use this old boy because we got the speakerphone unit. Love it. Get ready for the best thing you're going to hear all day, maybe all week. Dial 200. Is there anything better? And then of course we can dial him. He's 102. So we'll do speaker 102. Hello. We have a VoIP to Merlin phone call. There's something really nostalgic about hearing my voice over a POTS line, so I'm going to do something weird. I'm going to go in the other room. I'm going to call in here. I'm going to record and pick up this phone, I guess. I'll be right back. Okay, there's a phone call. I'm in the room with the retro rack on an IP phone next to the rack, obviously. And this is what it sounds like when I'm in a pretty loud room and it's going through that Cisco router into the Merlins. So the final count, I got 32 voice terminals with handsets, except for one of the brown phones comes with a black handset, but that's okay. 14 handset cords, so those are easily sourced. You can find a black handset cord on Amazon, I imagine. For $375 shipped, so that comes out to a little less than $12 US per voice terminal. I think that's a really good deal, especially if you consider shipping. Two 30-pound boxes, a smaller box that was probably 20-ish pounds. Technically, it was only like $60 shipping, and it's a luxury to get this stuff shipped to your door. The guy definitely took shipping into account for the price. I think it was a screaming deal. And again, I don't need all these, so I need to decide what to do with them. I'm going to keep the good ones and kind of formulate them into the right collection I want to have for me personally, and then I need to figure out what to do with them. I assure you, even if I put them up on eBay, it's going to be at shipping cost. I just want these out in the world and not in e-waste. I'm just got back from VCF Midwest. In fact, I got to meet up with a bunch of the folks from the Serial Port Discord. There's actually more people that came that didn't even make it into this photo. Of course, we took one photo, so we'll just have to do it again next year. And so I'm feeling kind of inspired about exhibiting, or at least bringing some stuff, driving out there. So I live in the Denver metro area, so it's a little bit of a drive. But I could bring a bunch of this stuff out, put it in the free pile, sell them for $1. I really don't know. I really don't know. But I'm definitely not going to hoard all this like some sort of Merlin phone dragon. Hopefully this was fun to follow along. I tried to make it more than just an unboxing video. That's usually kind of stuff I save for Patreon. Not that it's not good, but it's not like a whole narrative or a whole story to tell and something to accomplish. I'm pretty happy that I finally actually programmed one of these phones properly, even if it wasn't from the Attendant console, but we'll get there eventually. I'm fascinated by these Merlin phones. I think it's a really interesting piece of AT&T history. They lived a long life. I think Avaya now still has that ringtone. I mean, they're very historically significant. I probably got a lot of details wrong. I try to never misrepresent anything or say anything that's not true, but I'm not really a telephony guy. I don't live and breathe it, and so I'm doing my best to be accurate. Feel free to comment down below, of course, about anything I got wrong or any of your stories with these Merlins. But that's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed following along. I love playing with these things. Please consider subscribing if you haven't. I would really like to get to 75,000 subscribers by the end of this year, 2025, but it's looking, it could be done. And I, of course, have a Patreon where I post behind-the-scenes type videos, sometimes some unboxings, and the occasional early video. Thanks once again for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.